flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving into roll call, let the record reflect all board members are present. Moving into the approval of the agenda, may I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Only thing I'm going to suggest is that we move the approval of the field trips out of board motions, as there's nothing for us to approve, and move it underneath informational items and make it letter I. May I have a second? Second by Judy. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into our spotlight report, Elizabeth Walton.
Hi guys, my name is Addie and this is Allison Sophie, for those of you guys who don't know me. So we're on the Wake Up Walton Planning Committee this year, and we just kind of wanted to give you guys some updates. So this year we're going to have a little bit of a late start, but it's going to be on May 20th from 8:30 to 12. We got our mulch, we bought 370 bags of mulch, $2 a piece, a pretty good deal there. We have Chris Schaefer working on the strategy for delivery routes, and then we have the maintenance delivering it the day before, so we can open up mulch at the homes. We have Extreme Sportswear doing t-shirts again, and we actually have Miss Fern's art class working on a new design, kind of giving a little refresh, a little reboot. We sent out our letters for corporate sponsorships, and we have McDonald's doing breakfast for normal, but steak and shake also during lunch. So that's pretty much all of our updates, just to let you guys know what we're doing so far. I did want to encourage everybody to make a team. You know, this is an event that really brings together our community, and a lot of the seniors look forward to it every year. So the more volunteers we have, the better. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
How many homes do we have this year?
38.
And how does that compare with what we've had in the past?
So last year we had 36.
Okay.
We do need some volunteers, so we hope that you guys will participate. Hope to see you on May 20th. But
Sure. I'll sign up my team. We haven't gone online for that, but I'll see you guys there.
Alright, the flyer that's been handed out, you can sign up. Put the code on there or go online. So thank you guys for your time and your support.
With your corporate sponsors, how do you, who do they go to, just the local corporate sponsors?
Yes, and then also we kind of looked at the students and the school and some of the parents. You should have received one, I don't know if you did or not. But we sent out about 100 sponsorship letters.
Do you know when those were mailed out?
Some of them went out 2 weeks ago, and then there was another batch that went out, I think, last Thursday or Friday.
On that, does it give kind of a breakdown of maybe a request for corporate sponsors or?
Yes, it just is for 150 with your company on the back of the shirt. Next year, we're looking at hopefully kind of changing the sponsorship of, but for this year, we're just kind of keeping everything the same. All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for stepping up, Jackie.
And if you guys need to leave, you're more than welcome to. All right, next we'll move into our principals report. First, we'll do the elementary school.
Good evening, Board. Just a couple of things, not anything too data heavy since we last met from the elementary school, but a couple weeks ago we were here for the working board meeting. We had a mathnasium night going on over at our school. That was the first time we ever did that. That was a big success. I was able to see it get set up before I scooted over here. Very cool. They had the entire gymnasium set up with different tables, and at each table it had some type of game. We had quite a few teachers stick around and volunteer and help. The math amazing people were amazing to work with. That was, I think, a great success, and I'm looking forward to continuing. Moving forward, we had our Booster-Thon Fun Run as the culminating event for the spring fundraiser. From the notes, the best way to describe that is a party while running. They had a DJ out. It would be skip your lap this time, find a partner. Everybody stopped and do a dance break, and the kids had an absolute blast. They wore them out. They were very tired, but they had a lot of fun doing that. But the cool thing is our PTA was able to do very well on that, so we're really looking forward to some of the things that they'll be able to do. I know one of the big points when we last met was what was going to happen with Fall Festival. I've been talking to Kyle Bennett. Away game in the fall is either 22nd or 29th. We haven't landed on which date we're going to do our Fall Festival. It will be one of those 2 dates. I'm not sure, so if we were ready to say both, or is that the answer to that? But we should have that here by the end of the school year figured out. And then last thing is NWEA, the people that provides our math test. Tracy Bazika found it for me, and it was coming, and I didn't know it was out. She sent it on. It's called a linking study, where they take what is happening with our students on math, and how does that compare to how students do on the KSA test. And some of the important things, it comes out to about an 80% accuracy. I don't know if you remember a few years ago, I did my own kind of linking study for our school, just to test how accurate is the math test for us, and it was right around that same 80%. Which I think is pretty good, because testing by nature is kind of an up and down thing. So there's that part. One thing that did kind of stand out to me is in order for the people at math to feel comfortable for a student to be proficiency or better, they're looking at about the 60th percentile or better on that math test for a lot of the grade levels. And so that's good information for us. That gives us, an idea of who we really need to help, who needs a little extra boost. But then it also lets us know those kids that are above the 60th percentile. Those are kids that I don't want to forget as well. So for me, it's going to allow me to kind of tease out those 2 different groups of students and say, how are we doing for the kids that are below? How are our growth numbers looking for them? How are the growth numbers looking for kids that are at or above grade level? Because the expectation at the elementary school is that every kid's growing. No matter where they come in, we want to keep them growing. So that I'm excited about our spring math test and being able to jump into the data on that and kind of see how we are doing and be able to use that information to continue planning into next year. And then last thing, we got some important dates there at the bottom. The big one I want to point out is our Bridge Day ceremony. I forgot to include the time on that. That's at 9 a.m. If you are able to stop by the elementary school on that Thursday morning, we always appreciate the visit, and that is always a special event for us. So that's about it for the elementary school. Any questions?
Good to hear about the head kid and things. I think it's the next program.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that was good to see.
they were extremely kind.
They're an excellent organization.
It's a good partnership.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving into our middle school.
Good evening. Again, not a lot of data. We just finished math map today. We did reading earlier in the week. We've been able to get most of our reading makeups completed yesterday and today, and we'll start on the math makeups tomorrow, and hopefully have all that wrapped up very early next week so we can get prepared for KSA. I did highlight for you, this is that time of year that we start thinking about our new 5th graders. So we've had 3 different events so far with our 4th graders. Myself, Mr. Ryder, counselors, and Ms. Pollard, we all went over to the elementary and visited them on their turf back at the end of March. And then last week, they took their field trip over here, and lunch was the highlight of that because there's a little bit more choices for them. And they had a lot of fun with that. And then last night, very well attended our meeting in the middle. And this is a large group, and it went 15 minutes over simply because it took a little bit longer to get that many people through. But it was a very good event, very well attended. We do have Camp Bearcat scheduled the week before teachers start coming back, and that's always a good event. So we've got all the good stuff for incoming 5th graders going on. So I want to highlight that, give you our students of the month, and then again our noteworthy dates. Our 8th grade promotion we've annually had that the night before the last day of school. It is a board meeting night, so we pushed it back to 7:30, so hopefully some of you guys will be able to make it over. And then we made sure that we didn't have any conflicts with any other ceremonies. We're doing our 5th, 6th, and 7th like we did last year during the day, but this year we'll be on the last day of school. So we don't conflict with any of the other ones. So that's what I've got for you. Not much data, but next month I will have the MAP growth numbers out there. Questions?
Moving into our high school.
Community Board, long-awaited ACT results. We just missed it last month by a couple days with the data. So on the report, you can see we'll start at the very bottom. We'll start with the freshmen. Our freshmen completed the mock ACT. In this year's freshman class, outperformed last year's freshman class. Not by much, but you can see there where we did. So this class in English, we increased our freshman scores from last year, 0.3 of a point, 1/10 of a point in math, 0.05 in reading, 0.01 in science. So whenever you compare class to class, you really have to take everything with a grain of salt. Every class has a different personality, but the numbers are there, so we're happy about that. And I'll show you, I'll kind of keep back to why we're happy to see those green boxes in a second. So on page 2, the sophomore mock ACT. Our sophomores, compared to their freshman scores, that's the first box at the top, our freshmen, from freshman year to sophomore year, they increased, they grew phenomenally. As a English, they picked up almost 3 points, 3 full points of growth from their freshman year to the sophomore year. The math, they picked up 1.58, reading 1.54, and science 1.36. That's phenomenal growth from one year to the next. Looking at the sophomore class this year and their scores compared to the sophomore class of last year. This sophomore class did not outperform the previous sophomore class. We'll take a look at that. Those sophomores are now juniors. Our juniors are really a great class. Their scores are significantly higher. And every class has a personality, and our juniors have one personality, and our sophomores have another personality. And we are working to grow those, reduce those gaps. But you can see there the work that we do have cut out for us. So again, comparing class to class, what we want to do is start looking at kid to kid. So what did our sophomores do? So that orange box in the middle, those are class averages. The box at the bottom of that page, what I did is I took every kid last year and how much they grew from their freshman year to their sophomore year. And I compared that to what every kid grew from the freshman to the sophomore year of the class preceding. Okay? So put all those numbers into a spreadsheet, and what we're looking at is the sophomore class, albeit scoring lower than the previous class, showed more growth than the previous class did. So their scores initially were lower, but they grew more than the previous class. Okay? So that's where we have our sophomores, and I'll kind of come back and hit some high points of that in a second. But one of the things that we were really happy with is the amount of growth we saw in our English and our reading. English, when you look at same kid growth over the course of a year, the average kid grew 3.02 points. So that's a significant growth from freshman year to sophomore. And the next page, you can just skip over that, that's some more internal stuff. This is the juniors. So this is the official ACT that they took in March. The blue boxes at the top are their average scores for the class. So our average composite was a 21.18. You can see there the individual subject scores. So what does that mean? It means, we don't know, we gotta look at it. So in the green box there, the first green box, class of 24, growth from their sophomore to their official junior ACT scores. So our composite increased from sophomore year to junior year, 1.29. The English area was a 1.89. Sophomore math scores increased 1.68. Their reading, 0.4, and science, 0.1. So we showed a lot of growth. When we look at this year's junior class compared to last year's, this is where it really shows how strong that junior class is. Our junior class this year outperformed last year's junior class by 2.37 points as a composite. 3.73 in the English scores. That's phenomenal. The junior class is really strong. Almost 2 full points in math, 2.5 points in the reading, and 1.27 in science. So let's look at some individual kids. We had 2 students score a 34 in the composite. The highest score you can get is a 36. We had 2 scored 34s. We had 4 students score a perfect 36 in English. We had 34, we had 1 student in math score, the highest was a 34. We had 1 student score a perfect 36 in reading. We had 1 student score a perfect 36 in science. So I am very pleased with our junior class results. On the sophomores, we're continuing to work to grow them, and I'm pleased with the freshmen that we're seeing an increase there, and I'll show you that in a second. So at the end of the junior official ACT, we had 60 students meet benchmark in Kentucky for English, math, and reading just on that test. And that is really good. And I started talking about this last year. ACT, we know, is a college admittance exam. Every kid is required to take it in Kentucky. We also know that every kid has different post-secondary goals. We address those goals with the kids. We meet individually with them. And if those kids have a post-secondary goal that requires ACT admittance for a college, we're going to work with them. But if we have a kid that's identified that they want to go be a welder and they're going to vocational school and they're working on their 3G and 4G and their MIG certification, we're working with that child on those goals. Because again, the ACT is a college admitting exam. We're using the Coyote, we're using EdReady to make sure that our kids are ready for the post-secondary goals. On the next page, if you would mistake, the thing that we talked about here in the freshman class, what I was pleased about is we kind of had a trend here in math and even our composite. This freshman class is the first one in a spell to outperform the class above them in every sub-area. So we're seeing a turn of that wheel, and we're starting to correct some of the scores that we see. You can see here the sophomores did not perform to the level of the previous sophomore class, even though they grew at a far greater rate than the class that preceded them. And our junior official, here you can see, again, very pleased with this, outperforming the previous class, outperforming the class above that, outperforming the class above that, going back almost 4 years, that they are showing growth comparable to that. So, and then the trends, you can just see if you scroll down the page, I have the individual graphs per composite area and the sub-scores of each area to see what they stack up against the previous seven classes. So, freshmen, we have a good initial number. Our sophomores, not where we want them, showing phenomenal growth. Our juniors, really proud of their scores, really proud.
When I looked over this, what I saw with all your graphs and just comparing was I felt like classroom instruction is back. We took that dip when we were on COVID, and then we were hybrid, and then we were this, and then we get these kids back in the classroom, and we're going back up again. And I feel like it shows that in every single graph and all the scores that you show that classroom instruction is.
I agree. And even our sophomores who do not have the numbers that I'm happy with are showing significant, huge growth when you look at 1 year of solid instruction they're raising their scores 1.5 to over 3 points in some of the sub-scores. So I agree with that. Anything else on the board?
Your class are special. Large, loud, smart, a little bit everything. I guess you all would agree. Large and loud.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right, moving into our ECC.
I just have a few things for you guys tonight. Our enrollment will stay staying at 96, and then a few dates for you guys. We have worked a partnership with UK and the Northern Kentucky Health Department. They're going to be coming in and performing dental screenings on all of our preschool students that parents have given permission for. So we're excited about that just because it does meet the qualifications of the required dental screening that we have done before kindergarten. May 4th, we have our big field trip to the elementary school. So our students that are transitioning are going to take a trip over there and do a visit. And we actually have 67 students that will be going to the elementary school next year from our preschool. May 18th, we have our preschool graduation ceremonies here. We're doing an a.m. and a p.m. at 10 o'clock and at 1 o'clock. You guys are all welcome to attend if you would like. And then May 22nd and 23rd are the dates of our preschool screenings. We do this at the end of every school year in preparation for next year. Right now we have 44 students signed up. That's a good number, but the sheet is continuing to remove that for us. And then I also wanted to add that this week our preschool coordinator, Ms. Cinda, did receive the Golden Apple Award. I'm sure you have heard of this one too. Officially congratulate her. So that's all. Thank you guys.
Thank you. Moving into our bridge report.
All right, good evening, everybody. The bridge building going well. Again this month here, we have added a few new kids. As you can see there, listed out. We picked up some new ones in our high school and middle school sections. The most recent one coming just this week, actually, for our last 4 weeks of school, as it were. But we're going to try to work with that young man and get him on track and come back to school this year. One thing I didn't mention on this was here in the next few weeks, we'll be looking at our students who were able to transition back to their respective schools based on their success that they may have demonstrated. So that will be one of our exercises that we kind of go through their community, as well as kind of looking ahead to roster for next year, like who are our potential people that might start the year with this. A couple of celebrations there. You can read the one about the young lady getting her very first job there, which is awesome for her. It's not, as I list there, it's not a direct outcome of our bridge program, but our guys kind of helped her through that, and I thought that was awesome that they kind of got on a personal level with her and helped her do that. So another one is that we will be having, hopefully, we will have one final person to get the diploma here this year before the end of the school year. So that'll be a good way to cap off our year. And so everything going pretty well there. Continue to push them hard as we can here to the very end. So looking forward to that. Any questions about the bridge?
I was going to say thanks for everything that's going on in the bridge program and for continuing to highlight those kinds of successes, because I know it hasn't always been that way. I know there's been times where there's been a struggle, and I've just seen it continue to grow, and it's great. And I love hearing these kind of things that the people are there going the extra mile, and like helping a kid get a first job, which is huge, and people don't always have that opportunity in their life outside of that. So it's great to be in people that are willing to do it. So thank you.
Excellent. Appreciate it. My hats are go off to the two guys that are out there, Mr. Esser and Mr. Rattler. Doing a great job.
Moving into our attendance and enrollment report.
All right. Well, Our attendance trophy, actually should have changed hands last time, but never did. It will tonight, officially. Will be presented to our high school with a 95.96% attendance, which is great. So proud of them. All of our schools did very well. Nobody under 94%, so that's awesome for any month. And I would say good job to all 3 schools this month. And student enrollment size, we're just down a couple of students, but that does happen, as you know, kind of fluctuates here and there, plus or minus 5 kids in a given month. So we're still holding up there pretty well. Any questions about attendance or enrollment?
Thank you.
All right. Congrats, high school.
Thank you, sir. Lock it up. We will take it.
Middle school people are still.
Moving into our construction report. For the big 6-figure. I personally, I loved it.
It was about as detailed as I could get.
It was a great bedtime reading.
It was, but. Most people can sleep together. Started out, the fitness center was relocated out of middle school. So that makes room for some classroom space, and that would be great for the summer. Just a couple items for the library purchase, CFR funding and DG1. And then on the intermediate school, I'll just give a brief highlight on what we did. They had the building pad lined and leveled, getting ready to do the footers. The bus loop in the front, is the first coat of paving now. They're trying to trench across the tie in some of the storm sewer and it's a little rough out there. They're having some problems getting down in that drop because it's pretty easy. And they've been working on it for 6 days, I think. So they're moving. They're all the way across the road now, so that's a good thing. Took a long time, a lot of effort. I don't think they were happy about it. Now they're starting to build up the road in the back, so they kind of have to take out some of the land, build it back up, and make that back road across there. How much further out right now? And just hauling a lot of dirt out currently. Truck after truck after truck. Hopefully they won't tear up the front area as much because they're responsible.
I did have one question when I read through this. What is a riprap channel?
It's the channel that the drainage goes down, so it has, did you see in front of the archery center? That's the riprap channel, so it's just the liner that goes there. They have to re-dig it out because water gets like on the edges and behind, and after time it just brings out. We have a real problem with that back in high school, and we fixed it. But that's been there since '07, and it's holding pretty good. Getting a lot of sediment down in the stream. We are responsible for it.
Okay, thanks. I'd never seen that term before. I've seen those before, but I didn't know there was a name for them.
Yeah, it's rock and mine.
Yeah.
Could have said rock and mine. Sounds cool.
Riprap sounds cool.
That's what I was. I think we just got to pay application 3, which is a light one, just because there's a lot of some of those stuff coming through. Probably working on mine and anybody. I have to check on them. Pretty much about it. Any questions about anything that's going on? I'm going to include some pictures on the next one, so it might be a little bit more. But there'll still be some things.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, moving into the superintendent non-work days, do I bring a chance to review those? Moving into personnel, do I bring a chance to review those? Moving into other?
Board members, I just have a few items. As I think everyone's aware, tomorrow is the senior walk. It's a great event in our district. If you're able to attend, I I would highly recommend that, as well as prom. We're keeping our fingers crossed that it's a dry evening, but it's not looking favorable at this point. And Caitlin mentioned that we were able to honor Cinda Henson, our preschool director, earlier this week at Golden Apple. Very well, much deserved honor for her. And I think you're aware that we had a record number of students from the high school qualify, not only for Governor Scholars, but also for Governor School for the Arts and Governor School for Entrepreneurs. Kate, if you could make it known, let's have those students come in next August as a spotlight report to give the board just an update or reflection on their experiences this summer at those programs. Very excited, especially to have students in Governor School for the Arts and for Entrepreneurs. And just for the board's information, it is my intention to share a video update next week with the community dealing with the construction of the intermediate school. Robbie Ratliff, one of our staff members at the Bridge program, has a drone, and he's been practicing. So I'll share a video update with the community to show them an aerial view of the progress we're making in the construction of our intermediate school. That's all I have.
There's something Robbie does it too. So I only have two things. One, is there going to be a staff choir graduation?
I believe so. Mr. Nash?
I don't know. I don't think the response was overwhelming from the staff. I can check.
All the singers retired. They blended out the rest of us.
Send that survey out.
Maybe we could have the board sing.
I'm cool with that.
Group.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
-1.
Let's take it out.
Yeah.
Let's take a vote on that.
Just thought.
Let me know. I hope we can carry on that tradition. Because it's something I think everyone enjoys. And then, as Mr. Morwessel mentioned, that the 8th grade promotion ceremony is on our regular May meeting. So if everyone could take a look at maybe moving our meeting to that Monday or Tuesday. Because I know sometimes our meetings.
I thought he moved it to 7:30 so we could do better.
He did, but you know, sometimes our meetings go longer. So.
Oh, we know.
Right. So I just don't want to have it all on the same night and then we not make it there at all.
I would prefer to have it one night. That week is crazy with everybody's stuff. I think another night with all the other school stuff is a lot.
I agree.
I probably cannot make another night that week. I'm just going to put that out there. It's not that you have to change it, but I probably could not.
Do you need an answer tonight, or do you want us to look?
No, you can just look to see if that Monday or Tuesday is available. Just shoot me a text or an email, it's fine. To see if we could possibly move it. And that's all I have. Does anyone have anything else? No?
You said that Monday or Tuesday.
Alright. Moving into our audience of citizens. Looks like I have one, Mr. Lucas.
But I apologize in advance, my allergies are lovely. I know I'm getting old because allergies have never done a thing for me. So, I also fully recognize I'm a little late to the meeting with, really all I'm talking about is giving you my perspective as a staff member for some of the things that I think are optic issues, not necessarily issues in and of itself, but just optics from a staff perspective. So, just wanted to go through my spiel. It is worth noting I do have dyslexia, and if I don't read off my paper, I'll just go and go and go and go. So I'm going to attempt to read off my paper, but sometimes the dyslexia says that's not going to work too well. Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you all this evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Patrick Lucan. I'm the middle school business teacher, varsity girls soccer coach, on-court team lead, intramural soccer coordinator, and heavily involved in the athletics department. Tonight I'd like to take the opportunity to discuss some optics issues from the teacher perspective. I'm not speaking on behalf of teachers, speaking for myself, but I can confidently say I'm not off base with a large percentage of our staff. First and foremost, teacher pay. In my opinion, it feels like from the board and from our administrators that teachers only show up when paid people. And that's not necessarily an inaccurate statement. The question that I would pose to you, if you know there's a meeting that's going to talk about your ability to put food on your family's table, would you show up to? So I think teachers being in meetings where we're talking about money, I don't think that's inherently a bad thing. I think it's because we're engaged in our ability to provide for our families. Moving forward, we're regularly told that we can do what we can do and we can't compete with bigger schools. I 100% get that. I'm a numbers guy by my nature. You know, money can only stretch so far. The optics issue from the teacher's perspective is this. The word can't doesn't exist in our classrooms. We don't ever lead with, we can't teach, we can't get state results. It's, we turn over every stone, we're tireless, we do everything we can, we jump through every hoop, we fight for our kids, and we fight for our district. The perspective here in the optics issue is when we're talking about teacher pay, we lead with the word can't. We can't compete, we can't afford, we can't do. And that's an issue for me as a teacher when it's, I'm fighting until we're blue in the face and my coworkers are to try to fight for our kids to move our district forward. And whenever the conversation of teacher pay comes up, it's, we can't fight for it, we can't do this, we can't try to close that gap. And from the teacher's perspective, all we're asking for is for you to consistently fight for the staff, like we're consistently fighting for our kids. Return the favor, so to speak. Again, we understand it's not always going to work in our favor, but we would love to see the consistent effort of what can we consistently do to keep the gap as close as possible. Secondly, the purchase of the library presents a huge optics issue for the school. I openly acknowledge I have very little information on this project. There's been little information shared by Dr. Baker over the past couple of months trying to keep the staff informed. And then, you know, the obvious rumor mill that runs around the school. As a teacher and a coach, I hear all the time that money is tight and we need to skimp wherever possible for some of the endeavors that we're currently working towards as a school, the intermediary school being the big one. On one hand, we're told save, 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 but then we're turning around and we're purchasing a building that has very little direct impact on our students and student learning. Furthermore, the city of Walton is turning on a payroll tax over the acquisition of the library. My question to the board is, have we pursued every avenue to prevent this from happening? Have we looked at other properties? Have we tried to negotiate with the city to try to come up with a better solution than tax our already below average pay? And from the perspective of it's a Walton payroll tax, the Walton teachers in the Walton campus are going to get the tax, but does that mean that the Verona campus wouldn't get the tax? And furthermore, when we're talking about, we have a considerable number of staff members that live in Walton and work in Walton. So are those teachers and families now going to get punished for working here, pay the taxes to send their kids here, not get the tax benefit or the credit that Mr. Ryan talked about during the board meeting for the tuition, and then still get the 2% tax on top of that? That just doesn't seem right to me from a teacher perspective. Furthermore, talking in terms of that, if push comes to shove, and this is a target of opportunity that makes sense for the district long term, and that argument does exist, because if we need to add on to the early childhood center, it's going down the hill, and the board office needs to be moved, replaced in some way, shape, or form. That makes sense. The question is, does it have to happen now? Is that the best opportunity? And if the answer still is an emphatic yes, how do we fix the optics issue? Can we look at the raise again so teachers aren't taking in that loss? What if we give a 3% raise? It fixes the optics issue of that we're taking care of the staff, we're solving the board issue problem. Land's only more expensive. Let's buy it now when we can, because obviously the growth, we need that. And lastly, it gives the teachers a small win. It would be a big blow to our culture and existing staff if we purchase that building, we get the 2% tax, and then it's a net zero gain for us. It would be an even bigger blow for us if we still purchase the building, we don't get the 2% raise, and now we're taking the 2% pay reduction. And again, that goes into those same questions about what about the Walton campus versus the Verona campus. Any way you look at it, it does look like we talk about different pots of money, and I get that. It looks like we're doing a capital funding request to the state, which is completely foreign to me because I'm a teacher, not a finance guy. What I can say from my economics background in college is money spent is money spent, and nothing is free. So in some way, shape, or form, it's going to come back and it's going to be on our bottom line in the future. Again, don't know how capital funding requests work, but I would assume we're paying it back eventually. And then that's just money off our budget for future endeavors and purchases. Lastly, moving forward, the teachers and the board are disconnected. We hear that constantly. And we hear from our administrators that the board wants to have a relationship with the teachers in the school, and that makes sense. If we want this relationship under its current form to work, we have to come to you, we have to talk to you. If we want to come to board meetings, we have to put our families on hold. For me, I had soccer after school, I drove to Independence so I could see my daughter for 20 minutes. I turned around and I drove back out here, and then she's in bed by the time I get home. If my mother-in-law wasn't around this week, I would have to pay for a sitter to come talk to you. So the one-sided nature of this, we want to have a relationship, is an obvious issue. If the board, my proposal with Dr. Baker's permission, is we work collectively to come up with some rotation or day or presentation or something where we get you all in school. Let's get you in our classroom, let's get you in our study room, let's get you in PACE, let's get you in our band room or gym. Let's let you see our kids, meet our teachers, do meet and greets, do board roundtables. You all present to us about your background and goals. Let's truly have a grassroots movement where we build and develop a relationship. Right? We love our board office staff. We love Dr. Baker. Let's remove the middleman and let's truly have our board members develop a relationship with our staff. At the end of the day, the question that I'm posing to you is, I'm taking time out of my day to try to develop a relationship with you. Obviously, we all work, we all have issues, but at some point in time, when we return to pay, we can get you in our school in some way, shape, or form on a relative, consistent basis, so we don't hear this, we want a relationship, but no one's ever really worked on it, because teachers don't want to come here, you don't want to take time off school to come to us, so we're just in this, I'm on year 8 weeks every year, it's, we want a relationship, so let's solve it. That's all I got, thank you.
Very good.
I didn't realize this was a question.
It's not. First, thank you so much for what you said.
No problem.
I appreciate the honesty too about the issue that you might have with Ruth. Like everything was fantastic, but I appreciate that vulnerability and sharing that with us as well. It takes a lot of courage to get up and say the things you said, whether you're a board member, a citizen, or an employee of the school. Like it takes a lot of courage. I think as a school employee, it takes even more courage because you're really putting yourself out there. So I appreciate that. The payroll tax thing is definitely unfortunate. I can tell you there's a lot of rumors that go around about this. I'm pretty sure that the payroll tax is coming regardless of what happens with anything, because really from a city point of view, there's a massive infrastructure problem where we have all these buildings that keep going in like over and over and over again. We haven't, I don't know when the last time was we upgraded the sewage system, but I believe that that's a tax that's coming no matter what happens. But I do know that there's some rumors that are in the system that the payroll tax is being triggered because of like a library purchase or something like that. So I would encourage you or anybody else who might be interested, like please talk to your city council members, talk to the mayor. Like we don't have any input in that. For sure as a board, I don't think anybody else here has any impact on that because the city and the school are completely separate. And then another thing I want to touch on, like the relationship part. I'll throw out an open invitation. Anybody that wants me to come into a classroom, into the school anytime, let me know. I'll take a day off work. I'll take a vacation day. I try to get in. I did the career day at the middle school, and it was just somebody asked. Ms. Hedges asked, like, would you come and do this? Like, came and did it. I know JB, you were there as well.
Anytime I've been asked, I've been there.
Yeah. So I can't speak for everybody, but I'll come whenever. Like, if you want me to come in and tell you about myself, about what I do, about the board, like anything. Like, seriously, I'll come in anytime. Like, I really will take time to do that. I know that there was, at one point, there was an email that was sent out and said, don't talk to the board, like, via email unless I'm on copy and things like that. And that is what it is, but for sure, I for one am absolutely willing to talk to anybody, anytime about anything. It goes for like community members as well. Like people stop me in Kroger, call me on the phone, whatever. I'm open. But I appreciate it. I just want to make sure like it's not lip service. Like everybody knows for sure, I am willing to do whatever.
I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, and I agree. That's a good point of the optics issue. You know, perception is reality. And so, yeah, at any time, I'm there, because I think there does need to be you did a much better job. You kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, I'm just going to tell you. Because I was going to, but you did a better job than I would have done. So good for you. But I just speak for one board member. I know the other members, and they're just phenomenal human beings. And they're in no means special. I'll just speak for me. We don't want to get between the board and whether it's teachers, whether it's staff, or even parents. You guys are teaching our kids. I see you at Friday football games. I see my kid does soccer. I see you every Saturday night at soccer. I see Mr. Morwell every Saturday at soccer. I see you in the stands. I see you in the school. I see you at career day. So we don't want to, my neighbors across the street are teachers. So we don't want there to be a gap there either, trust me.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to our field trips, since we moved that up to informational. Does anyone have any questions about the field trips? Moving into our recommended board motions. First, we have the approval of the minutes for March 23, 2023, regular meeting. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David, discussions or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Aubrey. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the minutes of our April 13, 2023 special meeting. May I have a first? First by Jamie. Discussions or questions? May I have a second?
Second.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the superintendent's expense report. May I have it? First by Lynn. Discussions or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the treasurer's report. May I have a first?
Okay.
First by Aubrey. Discussion or questions? Thank you, Don. May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the orders of the treasurers, the bills. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Megan. Discussion or questions? And a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Aubrey. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the capital funds request for Walton Library purchase. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Megan. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by David. All in favor? 4. All opposed? 1. Motion passes 4-1. Moving into the approval of BG1 Walton Library purchase. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? 4. All opposed? 1. Motion passes 4-1. Moving into the approval of the pay application 3 for Morel Construction, Walton Verona Intermediate School. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Jamie. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Megan. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the independent auditor's contract for fiscal year 2022, 2023.
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions?
Kevin, I didn't know if it was worth this. I don't know if we've covered, I can't remember if we've covered it or not for the new board members of what this is or.
Sure. Yeah, I'll do the one I sent out. It's just a savings center, a contract with our audit firm, and the audit firm basically agrees to hit like the state timelines and stuff, and to look at things that the state asks them to look at every year. That contract is revised probably a little bit. For instance, this year there's a new accounting standard that had to be applied to ASC 96. If you wanted something really boring to read about tonight. So those things are all included in it. It kind of is. Gives the auditors like a checklist of what the state wants out of them, and then we have some additional things that we work out. But we have to approve it, and then there's a process where I have to submit things to the state and get it approved there at the next state board meeting, I think, which is in May, possibly. But we'll get those done and kind of get state approval for us to use the audit firm that we selected.
Thank you.
Ooh.
May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jeannie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the recommended salary schedule for 2023-2024 school year. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the additional administrative assistant to replace the current instructional assistant at Mount Vernon Elementary School. May I have it? First by Megan. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of an additional teacher at the Walton Vernon Middle School. May I have a first? First by Aubrey. Discussion or questions?
I think it was a question on the, because it just says additional teacher. Did we ever figure, because I think the question was, is it PE teacher? Was it, what's the?
An encore or fifth grade?
Yeah, I outlined last month that we are covering the additional teacher needed for the 5th grade core classes through what we have in front of us, because we have been playing with that the last couple of years on numbers reduction to make sure it works. And then that will cover 3 lines with one of our current reading teachers and 2 lines with our current math teacher. And then to relieve the numbers in encore as well, add another encore, shows physical education and health, to expand that program. The encores at the middle school are really more about exposing kids to a variety of things, so really being able to expose a little bit more of the health education to them, but also, we don't have a second gym, we can't have 2 PE classes when the weather's nice, try to, look at some other active fitness movement for middle school age kids.
Thank you.
So, I don't remember from last month, but did we look at other positions, like what was the impact if we added somebody that specialized in math or reading, one of the focus areas that we have pretty much across the board at all the schools versus a specialist teacher? I don't know if that's part of the analysis we do or.
It was not. It was, I have vision meetings and the principals know their master schedules better than anybody, and I trust them to do that. And the request was, from the middle school for the additional teacher that would be on court. But I also, as one of the reasons I didn't list a specific content area on the agenda is I don't know, Mr. Morwest will post health and PE. He gets no applicants. At this point, does he need to go back to his council and say, okay, we got no applicants for health and PE, let's do something else. So try to reduce the latitude based on the applications that we receive.
We're also, if I can, our RTI programs, we're always looking at how to improve those. Our MTSS handbook has come out, but we're always looking at the growth of those kids, what's going on in those classrooms for the struggling readers. I mean, that's obviously a step in trying to identify potentially if a student needs to be referred to special ed, but of course the goal is to try to get them out of RTI. So, we've followed some of the recommendations from what had been proposed in our MTSS handbook initially to have more meetings and look at some qualification standards, get some more kids some of those services too. So, I feel like we're doing some things on that MTSS side with our reading and math RTI that we're making some positive progress with on both ends.
May I have a second? Second by Jamie. All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes 4-1. Moving into the approval of the additional English/language arts teacher at Walton Verona High School. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Megan. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by David. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of an additional math teacher at the Walton Verona High School. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of an additional science teacher at the Walton Verona High School. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Jamie. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Aubrey. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of an additional district technology teacher to replace current technology assistant on the Walton campus. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the 2023-2024 District Professional Development Plan. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by Megan. Discussion or questions?
The only question I had was there were items that are highlighted in yellow, but I didn't see an explanation for why those are highlighted.
Just because I was trying to remember to call somebody.
Okay. Well, consider this a reminder.
And that's pretty in the middle of things like that.
It caught my attention when I read it. I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I missed. Okay, great.
It reminds me to call somebody about training. Thank you.
You're welcome. We didn't plan it.
May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the amended 2023-2024 school calendar. May I have a first? First by David.
I'll make it.
Discussion or questions?
Rob, anything you need to change, or how are we proceeding? This is your platform, man, this is your time.
I'm out.
May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Jamie. All in favor? 4. All opposed? 1. Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of the NKCES Statement of Intent to Participate. May I have a first by Megan. Discussion or questions? May I have a second? Second by Aubrey. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Approval of EZ-Ed-Med service contract for Medicaid billing for the 2023-2024 school year. May I have a first?
I'll make it.
First by David. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Aubrey. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into the approval of common carriers Delta Airlines and Enterprise Rent-A-Car for Quest trip to San Francisco. May I have a first? First by Jamie. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Megan. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. Moving into adjournment, may I have a first? First by Jamie. Discussion or questions? May I have a second?
I'll make it.
Second by Aubrey. All in favor? Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned at 7:00.